This is one of the more common questions I've gotten through my career. The couple good rules of thumb. If you're riding your horse more than 1 to 2 times a week, especially if you're riding them over kind of rocky, uneven ground, it's usually a good idea to shoe them or at least put some boots on. I found that the little pokey rocks are actually tougher on feet, even if you're on kind of a dirt road. Just those little hard, uneven surfaces and rocks can really do surprising amounts of damage and pain to your horse. Other reasons you might think about it would be if your horse just kind of has some weak or short feet. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. They just benefit from that little bit of extra protection. It's also kind of a risk mitigation, even if your horse is technically okay barefoot, especially if it's a performance horse. It's a silly reason to have your horse come up lame or have decreased performance with a very preventable issue, just like simply putting shoes or some boots on. Another very common one, and one that's not surprisingly terribly understood. Good rule of thumb again is about every 6 to 8 weeks. We've got some videos to shoe or not to shoe. We address a lot of these questions actually in to a further degree than I'll be able to go into this one. So please make sure to check that out. Because feet are constantly growing and want to go out of balance or wear out of balance, if they are shod, have shoes on, then the 6 week mark is a great rule of thumb. If they're barefoot, the 8 week mark is a good rule of thumb because they're wearing their foot off a little bit, so they grow out of balance a little slower. All right, so this is a really common question, especially right now. Thrush is a naturally occurring bacteria. It's mostly bacterial. There can be a little fungal component. It's naturally occurring in the soil. It likes closed off environments. It doesn't like to grow in the presence of oxygen, and so those closed off environments include packed feet. One of the best ways to address it is just simply to pick out the feet and expose the foot to air. Again, it doesn't like oxygen, so it doesn't grow well. This time of year, we have it quite a bit simply because the conditions stay wet as well as the frog is shedding this time of year. And so the 2 times a year we get it kind of late spring, early summer, and late summer, early fall unfortunately coincides with when the frogs are shedding here in this area and when it's wet. And so as that frog is separating and shedding off, it creates a lot of cracks and crevices that are really hard to pick and keep clean, as well as just that wet, warm environment is a great place to grow that stuff. And so thrush is relatively normal, and so the main goal is just simply push the reset button often. And the worse the conditions or the more at risk your horse, the more you need to push it. And so again, picking the foot really thoroughly, do it often. The wetter conditions, the horses who seem to be more susceptible to it, pick them out more often. If you find that the horse is sore, has kind of a short, sore frog, then adding betadine or chlorhexidine are great ways to hit that reset button a little further. Again, just pick the foot out really well, drop the medication in, hold the foot up, let gravity work it down into those cracks and crevices, and that really helps to keep that stuff in check a whole lot better. So I get this question actually a lot, both on the vet and the farrier side. Supplements are a really common thing we see. There are a couple of big concepts to understand. One of the best is human diets are unfortunately very complicated. It's really hard to get it understood. There's new science, there's bad science, there's evolving science, and there's a lot of opinions on the matter. The nice thing with horse diets is they evolved simply to eat hay. They get everything they need literally from hay. And so good hay, whether it's grass or alfalfa, almost always for just about every horse takes care of all of their needs. Some of the challenges with supplements, mostly what we're looking at with supplements is micronutrients, so vitamins, minerals, things like that. And they are needed in small amounts. Unfortunately, horses are large critters, and so their small amounts are different from our small amounts. And so most supplements are provided in amounts that are too small to actually have measurable effect on the horse's needs. One of the other challenges is that those micronutrients, the uptake and absorption of those is actually a very complex process. It's usually done with other vitamins and minerals, so just simply sending one down the pipe doesn't necessarily translate to actual uptake and absorption. Needs to be as a part of an overall system. If you're looking at feeding or adding something to contribute to better hoof health, it's a time game as well, because hoof is produced at the top of the hoof, the hairline, and grows down. It takes about 9 months to a year or two to actually get down to the ground level where you're trimming it off. You're seeing how it's handled, the life and the load and the wear, so you can really evaluate the quality of the hoof there. Unless you're going to commit to feeding those supplements or that new diet for that full length of time, you're not going to get an accurate representation of upsides, downsides, or any benefits that you might have obtained through that new diet. There are bigger things that factor into hoof health. Again, if you're chasing a dietary thing, then good hay is your workhorse. Again, they will get everything they need out of that. If you're looking for something extra, you know you don't have the best quality of hay, or your horse just is working beyond what it can eat as far as intake of roughage forage, then look at a complete feed, like a senior feed, that will have everything the horse needs. They're very intentionally formulated diets, and they are designed such that if that was all the horse ate, they would get everything they needed. And so reaching for something like that is going to give them all of the micronutrients that they need and not have some of those weird imbalances that can happen from feeding multiple supplements. Yes. So this is again, this is one of those that, because people are coming from so many different backgrounds, it's, for a lot of people, it's just assumed that horse needs its feet done, find someone who does their feet, and that should be fine. Unfortunately, most of what we do with horses is not natural to them. They are a flighty prey animal, and we train them to do just about everything that we want them to do. We have to work through their kind of default programming. And so just like we train them to take a saddle, to get somebody on their back and flop around and scream and swing a rope, to get into a trailer and drive down the highway, to walk through doors, to go inside, all this stuff is things we've had to train horses to do, and we do it intentionally. And giving up their foot, their leg, puts them in an incredibly vulnerable position. That's their main defense weapon, and that's their main offensive weapon, running, stomping, kicking. For them to give that to us is an incredible sign of trust and takes time. And so that is something that needs to be done intentionally. If your horse knows you, trusts you, loves you, if they won't let you pick up their feet and hold their feet up, if they're scared to let you do that, that's a really good indicator that they're not going to let anybody else, especially a stranger who smells funny, do that. And so again, the more you train them for that, the better things will go. The nice thing is you can really land anywhere on the spectrum of trainers to farriers. There are plenty of trainers who are great at teaching your horse to stand for a farrier, and they'll do it because they understand the importance of a horse that stands well for the farrier. And then on the other side, there are farriers who will train your horse just enough to get their job done, and the rest is on you and everything in between. So finding the right solution for yourself, and especially for your horse, is key, because the better behaved they are, the more willingly they'll have their feet worked with, the more options you have for the right professional, and the better care that they can get.